Welcome back to DBAP Chat. I am Boyd Myers, and this is, as I always say, this is simply my collection of conversations I'm having with people that I find intriguing, that I find awesome, and I want to share, help get their story out. It's completely selfish. I hope I can get something from it, but in turn, I hope you're able to get something from it. I often ask on Twitter, I ask, hey, who should I interview? And I prefer finding the diamonds in the rough, right? I mean, people always have a tendency to say, interview this guy, he's got 300,000 followers, he's got a great story. Everyone already knows those stories, right? And while they may have great stories, I mean, obviously we all know David Goggins and Cameron Haynes and the stories they have. Man, there's so many people out there that have done amazing things, that have been through some crazy, crazy shit. And I always say your hardest thing is your hardest thing. And we feel like whatever we're going through at that time is the hardest thing we will ever go through. Well, a few of my guests have been through some crazy shit, right? I mean, if you've listened to the past episodes, you know that, man, there's been some people that have been through some challenges. With that being said, I came across Justin Schmidt. He's our guest today. And he and I, we go back and forth a little bit on Twitter. He's a United States Army veteran, and we started chatting. And one day, I went back, I read his pen thread that he simply wrote because he just hoping like, hey man, you may be going through a bad day, just keep going, shit gets better. To summarize it that way is a complete understatement. Now, Justin doesn't have video, but I promise you that's not going to take away from this message. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Justin Schmidt to DBAP Chat. Justin, what's up, my man?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
No, dude, I've been excited about this, but I wish we could have gotten it done last week. As you know, the sale of my home is making it has my life going crazy right now. So I'm glad we're able to do it today, man. How is the weather down in, where are you at in Florida?
About 2 hours north of Tampa, right outside of Ocala.
Okay, great, man.
And it's hot as fuck.
When you say hot, I mean, you're from New Braunfels, Texas. So you're from South and Central Texas. Compare the heat, man. Tell me about that humidity.
Oh my God. You get out of the shower and you start sweating and it's just sticky 24/7. It's ridiculous. The other day, man, it was 85 degrees at like 10 o'clock at night with 95% humidity.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, I've spent a little bit of time in Florida, and that's one thing I will never miss. I mean, Texas isn't insanely better, but sometimes, at least in North Texas, it does cool off a little bit at night, man. So, Army veteran. Now, I can't even begin to do this story justice. So, I want you to think back when you wrote your thread, right? And I want you to tell that story as well as you can. I know it's different when you're writing it, you're thinking about it. I know it's different, but as well as you can recall that thread, man, why don't you break that down for me?
Oh man, I think I started off by saying I felt like I was cursed from birth because my mom was a teen mom. She had me at like 16, 17. My dad deuced out when she was pregnant with me, and so I had like an on again, off again relationship with him. Had a shitty stepdad, typical emotional abuse from that. And then at 14, I had the bright idea to get my ear pierced. And my dad came to pick me up that weekend, and he saw it, and he was like, "Well, what's that in your ear?" And I was like, "Oh, it's an earring." And he pulled out a pair of pliers from his glove box of his truck, and he goes, "If you don't take that out, I'm gonna rip that motherfucker out of your ear right now." I was like, "Man, all right." So I took it out, and he was like, "I ain't gonna have my son be no fag." And I was like, "Okay." And then he disowned me after that. I talked to him like once when I was 17. Anyways, so when I was 16, 17, I got the bright idea that, hey, I too want to be a teen dad. And that was a mistake. So I get this girl knocked up. We move out, live in an apartment, me, her, and our kid. Broke as shit, had nothing going for me. So I'm like, all right, I'll do something with my life. I'm gonna join the military, go kill some terrorists, do some cool shit. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm in Afghanistan, get hit with an IED. And I call her that night because the truck behind me got hit by an IED and the gunner died. And I was the gunner in the truck in front of it. Well, a lot of shit was popping off on the news. So I call her that night and I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know some stuff happened. I'm okay. So if you hear about it, don't worry. And the first words out of her mouth were, okay, cool, but can you send more money for bills? So I kind of knew that it was going to be an issue there. Anyways, find out she's cheating on me the whole time I'm in Afghanistan. This is where the story gets crazy. So I come home from Afghanistan, and when you're in the Army, if you're married, you get what's called BAH, basic allowance for housing, right? Well, if you get BAH, you cannot stay in the Army barracks because you're getting that. So my first sergeant comes up to me and he's like, hey, you and your wife are separated, right? And I was like, yeah, roger that. He said, okay, well, you have a house on post, but she's living there, so you can't live there. I was like, okay, so can I have a barracks room? He was like, no, you're collecting BAH. You can't have a barracks room. I was like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And he was like, I don't know, figure it out. Great leadership. So I had a friend that he had there were 2 rooms in each barrack room. He had an empty bed, so I was sleeping there. Well, someone snitched me out and got called in the first sergeant's office, and he was like, hey, if I catch you sleeping in my barracks again, I'm calling the MPs for trespassing. So I'm like, okay. So I have another friend that lives on post. So I start sleeping on his couch. Someone snitches again, and his NCO is like, if you don't get him out of your house because he's not allowed to be there due to housing regulations or whatever, then I'm going to give you an Article 15, and we're going to do what we can to kick you out of your house on post. So my buddy's like, bro, I'm sorry, like there's nothing I can do. So I had orders to go from I was at Fort Bragg at the time, to go from Fort Bragg to Fort Campbell. And so it was only a couple of weeks. And for those 2 weeks, my last 2 weeks of Bragg, I spent sleeping in my car.
Hey, let me stop you there, man, because there's a lot here, and I don't want to interrupt you because this is fucking amazing, dude. I want to go back to your upbringing, okay? And I'm going to kind of walk forward here, okay? Because I'm taking notes. If you can see me, I'm taking notes. I'm not. My phone is on freaking do not disturb. I'm not gonna. Now I'm going to put that damn thing where I can't even see if it lights up, right? Because talked about your upbringing, right? And dude, my father, I've talked about this in some of them, was a fucking addict, was a fucking drug dealer, was bad, beat the fuck out of my mom, just that fucking guy, right? So I can understand that redneck mentality, is what I call it. I grew up in Southeast Kentucky. I've also often said that I think a lot of poor people, like white people, black people, Hispanic people, we all grow up very fucking similar, right? And I don't mean that like, I mean, it's not necessarily related to poverty, but you said teen mom, babies having babies, usually leads to babies having babies. That's the path you went down, right? Dude, I don't know how the fuck I didn't have babies by the time I was 17 or 18. And I pray my 17-year-old knucklehead son in there is not, bringing me one soon. But you said, like, I mean, he freaking, I got Mary Pierce too about that time. And I remember that threat distinct. And I don't think it was hyperbole. I don't think it was a joke. My dad got the opportunity. He'd have tore that motherfucker out of my ear, right? So I can absolutely relate to that. Now, dude, you said what year? What year were you? What year did the IED hit?
2010, March 1st, 2010.
Okay, so I was in Baghdad with the 18th Airborne Corps out of Fort Bragg. I was there 05 and 06, right? So I've got a dragon patch. I thought I might have it here in my little office nook here, but I don't. So this is fucked up, man. You said the IED hit, call home, your wife's like, yeah, okay, send money, right? So obviously, yeah, see where that's going. And unfortunately, that's not an uncommon fucking, theme amongst Joe, right?
Right.
And you said, tell me the story, the IED hit, the guy behind you got blew up. And then you said, and this is where it gets shitty. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man, but a fucking IED blowing up, and your perception is that I mean, it gets fucking worse, man. I hope that sets the fucking tone for the way the GI's mind is fucking programmed, right? If you don't know what an IED is, it's basically a fucking, in this case, I'm assuming roadside bomb, right? You guys rode over top of it.
It was a suicide bomber, actually.
Oh, fucking even better, right? So
Even
guys,
better.
yeah. So for you that don't know, a guy that has vowed to destroy, you know, to be on a holy pilgrimage or whatever. Usually it's fanatic, you know, fanatic religion related. Strapped a bomb to himself or pulled one up in a car, which would be called a VBID, vehicle borne. And he drove up and he blew up a convoy. Right now, Justin was fortunate enough. He's the gunner, guys, that sits on top of a Humvee. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there's not a lot of fucking air conditioning in Iraq, right? So sitting on top of a Humvee is fucking brutal. Sticking out of it, you've got a crock pot on your fucking head melting you, and you've got full body armor on. So you're already miserable with a freaking brutal sun. In March, it can still be cool at night, but it's already started warming up pretty bad in most of the country there. But Justin, the IED, the suicide bomber blows up the truck behind him. Right now, we've got a whole country full of fucking people that are hurt when you fuck their pronouns up. Okay, this guy tells me his buddy gets blown up. And that's not even the worst part of the story, guys. So I want you to understand the people that serve this country that have gone off and done things, man, it's a different fucking breed. That I'm hard on these platitude idiots that like to freaking give, that have never been in the military, but like to give military people advice. You're not fucking qualified. And the first 7 minutes of this, Justin's told you why you're not qualified because you don't understand the fucking mindset of what goes through the men and women that serve this country. So you get back to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Were you in the 18th?
No, I was in 82nd.
Okay, well, freak, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So y'all think the 18th are a bunch of fucking pogues, right?
Yep.
Hey, man, Rangers lead the way, nonetheless, right? So, all the way, man. Air assault. I remember all that. Right. So I was there for it, but I was with those guys, right? So this is where it gets shitty. So you find out she's cheating on you. If it's anything like every other story I know about this right here, there's a good chance of all that extra money you made, that deployment pay, that separation pay, and all that special duty pay. My guess is there's not a lot of it left. Am I correct?
Nothing left. I couldn't even. We didn't have the money for me to play poker with the boys and spend $20.
Man.
So there was no extracurricular activities for me in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So young dad, soldier, you've already went through a suicide bomber. You know someone you knew was unfortunately didn't make it through that. You go back, you return, you find out all your money's gone. She's fucking gone. And this is something people don't understand. I'm not to veer here because guys, military suicide's fucking different, and a lot of it. Now listen, we'll all admit a lot of us make terrible decisions, right? But man, I mean, you go and see some of the things that, like shit, man, like you've seen. I've never faced a fucking suicide bomb. You see stuff like that you saw, and then you come back the whole time you find that out, man. That'll fuck you up, right?
Yeah, and to kind of put it in perspective, I was 21 when this happened. So, I mean, I turned 21 in Afghanistan. So I see people on Twitter, they're like, oh, I just moved out of my mom's house making 10 grand a month at 21. And I was like, we are not the same, bro.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. When you tell me hey, I had a drinking problem, went to college and had a drinking problem, and I sobered up. Let me tell you how you can be a fucking successful CEO. I agree. You're not the fucking same, right? So adversity, again, I say this is a theme of these conversations I have. Your hardest thing is your hardest thing, bro. Blacking out in college, that may be your hardest thing, but what I call that shit is college, right? when you're fucking 18, 19, 20, 21 in the military, dude, we're paid. Yeah, here's the deal. We're different because A, we can get beer cheaper than you can get it because we can get it on base. Yeah. And B, we got a fucking steady paycheck coming in to go buy said beer, right? So we're paid to party, right? So yeah, I mean,
it'd be nothing for. Oh, my bad. It'd be nothing for us to go to the strip club, and then like when I was single, go to the strip club, and then come back at like 3 a.m. drunk as shit, and then go run 12 miles at 6:30 a.m. the next day. That was a Tuesday.
Yeah, PT, man. I mean, it just you gotta be somewhat intoxicated to go out and do PT, right? On a fucking right? All right, so Vietnam, and again, I don't want to be talking all this out here. I just want to dude, I mean, you just at 21, you've seen your fucking body blown up. You've lost fucking wife. You're a dad, right? And now you're basically fucking couch surfing. I mean, which is, again, I'm not going to get into the fuckery of the military, but illegally, as far as the military is concerned, like you said, way to take care of your people, right? You get orders to Fort Campbell, right? So Fort Campbell, you guys don't know, what's it, about an hour north of northern part of Nashville, right?
Yep.
So tell
me, it's south. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, tell me about. So you've already been through a little bit of hell in Fayetteville. You go to Fort Campbell. Fort Campbell is home of the 101st Airborne. Am I right?
That is correct. I got stationed with the 5th Special Forces Group.
Oh, so great!
I was with group. Yeah, I was support, so I wasn't like a cool team guy, but I was support, so we got to do some cool guy shit every now and then. So I get there and I'm single. Everything's cool. Make friends. Meet a girl. So here we go again. During all this, I'm fighting constantly with my ex-wife. That alone is causing like a lot of depression. I'm at this time I'm 22. I haven't seen my kids in a year. I had two daughters. I haven't seen them in a year. She's calling me like once a month, and we fight like crazy. So it's causing a lot of mental anguish on my end. And real quick, I want to go back to your point about how, the mentality of military members, and when we're in combat, like, you're probably going to die. And we understand that. So it's nothing, like it's just death. Everyone does it. And so that was kind of our, my mentality, at least. It was, it's going to happen eventually. So anyways, yeah, so I'm going through hell with that, but my new unit's a lot better. And then I meet one of my buddies. His sister came down to visit. She was smoking hot, a model. Obviously, I'm trying to get that. So we start talking. Now, with this unit, I was still collecting BAH because I was paying child support. I never turned in my divorce paperwork, if you will,
right,
from my first marriage. So I'm still collecting BAH, and every penny of that is going to child support, because in the military, they judge your child support amount off of your BAH. So I'm living in these old Vietnam barracks. At the time, there were me and one, maybe two other guys in there. No AC, no heat, no hot water. It's the winter in Kentucky. So it's cold. And then you got to take cold showers. So I'm living there, go see my buddy and his sister. He's like, hey, you're living in barracks. It sucks. Just come stay with me. It's fine. Cool. So I come stay with him, and he puts me in a room with his sister. And we've only known each other like a month. So we're sleeping in the same bed before we're even good friends or anything. And, nothing happens. We start dating, and then his wife freaks out and is like, everybody needs to move out. So it's me, his sister Amanda, and his mom Cindy. And so I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do? So within, 2 days, I find us a house. So we go and now we have a house all post. And my NCO comes up to me and he says, "Hey, they're asking about your BH. You're single, but you're collecting BH and you have a house off post. That's not kosher." He's like, "I know you got a girlfriend. Why don't you marry her so you can keep your BAH? I'll give you 2 weeks." Okay, sounds great. So I marry her.
Well, man, hey, well, first off, that's a hell of a battle buddy. Put you in the room with a sister.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
man, that NCO, man, I don't know what they teach at Army NCO Academy, but hey, man, just tell that motherfucker to get married so he can get BAH, right? Yeah, it's one thing, man. It's I always joke because I did intelligence when I was with the Army. There's not a whole lot of Army intelligence. I mean, I don't mean the people. I just mean the way that shit's done. I'm always like, holy fuck, man. I mean, this is
Bro,
like,
it's so dumb.
yeah, there's not a better way to do this. And I'm talking more about like, I mean, it was just throw tons of people, no tons of weaponry at any problem. But it was stuff like as I got to know guys, personnel in the Army, man, I was always like, as fucked up as I thought the Air Force was, man, there's some shit I think we had figured out a little better than the Army does. So, but you talked a little bit about like, hey, we go and we just assume we're gonna die, right? That's part of it. But man, when it happens, when your unit's attacked or when you face that, there's a lot of people experience a lot of survivor's guilt. Yeah, did you have any issues with that after the ID?
A little bit. It was more of like, holy shit, that could have been me.
Sure.
Because it was a suicide bomber in a car. And so, we're going across a bridge and they're coming the opposite way. So he drives right by me and then hits the truck behind me. If he would have turned, a second earlier, I'd be dead. So that was fucking crazy. But survivor's guilt, not really, because I mean, I don't know, it might be a dick, but I'm like, we all signed up to do this
No,
and
yeah,
we
I
all
get
knew we
you.
are gonna die.
Yeah, I get you, man. I mean, in that situation there, man. I mean, it's you see people seen the movies, American Sniper, all the thousands have come out since, I mean, it's crazy, man. We lived in peace for so long, and then guys your age and my age, I mean, dude, we only knew fucking. I mean, after I went in January '95, and the first half of my career was fucking nothing, dude, nothing. It was just, I mean, yeah, we were so far away from being in war. It was crazy. And then September 11th changed a lot of that, right? So, those, a lot of people after that, man, they came in. Like people I went in, they're like, oh, I didn't sign up to go to war. Like, what the fuck did you come in for? And then, like, everybody after that, I mean, dude, you went in knowing, especially if you went into the United States Army or the Marine Corps or any of the, special force unit or anything, you came in knowing, like, dude, I'm going to boot camp, I'm going to AIT, I'm going to do some little bit of training, and I'm probably shipping out. And there is a good chance my Army career and my life may not be existent in the next 2 years, right?
Yep, absolutely. I actually, funny story is when I was before I joined, I was working as a machinist, and there was a couple of vets that worked there. And I told them, I'm thinking about joining the Army. And at the time, I'm, an 18-year-old kid, got, a wife and a kid, and I'm, scared out of my mind for just everything. So I'm like, hey, I want to join the military, but like, I don't really want to deploy. And I'll never forget the guy said, "What is the point of going in the military if you're not going to actually go fight for your country?" And I was like, let's fucking do this. So
Yeah,
I signed
you're
up as a combat medic.
yeah, dude, you're pretty much a fucking recruiter's dream.
I'm an easy sell.
Yeah, dude. The funny thing is, had the fucking Air Force recruiter not been open, dude, I'd have went straight in the Army recruiter. He was always open. That motherfucker didn't take lunch, right? What he did, he waited the Army guy, he waited the Air Force guy went to lunch and then tell the guys come knock on that guy's door. Come on in, you can wait in here. Next thing you know, I can get your paperwork started for you and you're shipped off to fucking Fort Benning, right? So
Yep.
yeah, man. I know how that goes. That's funny. Yeah, dude. It's funny. I grew up in an area where most people, like, I had guys that come back. I've been in 82nd, 101st, there in Kentucky, and it's funny. Like that's the same mentality, bro. Like, dude, if you're gonna go in to fucking fight, right? Like, oh, dude, you were in the fucking 80s. We didn't do shit. Where'd you go to Grenada or fucking Panama. I mean, come on, guys, what are we talking about, right? And then those guys went to Operation Desert Storm in my freshman year of high school, I think, dude. And those guys came back and they're still fucking drinking beer on that shit at the VFW, and that lasted 30 minutes, right? So different mentality, right? So you the guys between Vietnam and between Afghanistan and our Iraq, and there was a whole bunch of nothing. So yeah, some of those guys were like, fuck yeah, if you're going in, you go to the fucking Rangers, blah blah blah, Rangers lead the way, all that, right? So man, I know the mentality, and I was pretty impressionable as a young kid too, so I can relate. But let's get back to, so now your NCO's recommended, dude. He's doing you a solid, right? Instead of saying fuck this for yank your money, he's like, man, you got a girlfriend, go get married, brother. I'll give you 2 weeks. Go.
Yeah. So we put together, a wedding within 2 weeks. Mind you, okay, during this time, it's me, my girlfriend at the time, and both of her parents. Okay. And at the time, neither one of them were working. So on, E4 salary, I'm taking care of all this while still paying child support. My entire $1,800 of BH is going to child support. So we get married. Everything's kosher. And then I was airborne, and so I landed on a jump wrong, and I went basically feet ass head, and went unconscious for a few seconds. Didn't think anything of it. I'm not going to get checked out because I'm not a bitch. A couple nights later, I'm having seizures in the middle of the night. And so I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I go, I wait, do PT the next day. And then after PT, go to, I see if I can go to the med shed. So I go get checked out, and I explain what happened. No, let me back up. I went to the ER. I called 911, went to the ER. They're like, there's nothing wrong with you. We're not showing anything, you're faking it. Right. Go next day, go get checked out, and the doctor's like, you definitely had a seizure. So then begins the long battle of, the Army trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And it took about 18 months from probably closer to 2 years from the time that I had my first seizure until they actually med boarded me out of the military. And I'm having seizures every day this entire time.
Wow. So you had a seizure, which is fucking terrifying. Nobody's never had one. I had one time ever out of nowhere, and I've never had one since. Nothing's ever figured out why or how. But it was only a few seconds. It scared the shit out of everybody around me more than it scared me, right? I mean, because I fucking don't think I knew, right? I was like, like that. And I guess it went on a lot longer than I thought it did, because I thought it was a second, because I felt like I came back through and people were staring at me. I'm like, what the fuck happened, right? You said you did PT the next day. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, you don't skip PT, bro. That's not a thing.
Roger that. Wow. So you didn't skip PT. So you went to fucking PT again, man. Dude, there's fucking guys that are walking, these platitude morons are walking in fucking Texas heat, and it's putting them in a hospital, or they're telling motherfuckers, if your heart rate's getting up, take it easy, and you should take days off. And I'm not telling everybody to go out running a fucking heat like my stupid ass does. Okay. I've acclimated to that. But what I am telling you is, man, don't be such a little bitch, right? I mean, dude, it's okay. You're fucking tired. You didn't get 8 hours of sleep. Who gives a fuck, right? Go after it, right? So you had a fucking seizure, and you're like, man, I'm gonna be a bitch. I'm not a pussy. Got to go to PT. We'll talk to the sergeant after that. Let him know, hey, man, I'm going to be late getting to the office. I got to run over to the fucking shed. I just think I had a seizure last night, right? And here's the fucked up shit. That motherfucker was like, thinks you're fucking with him. Probably like, nah, man, you really need to go. I know the mentality, right? Like, no, dude, you need to make sure you get to work, bro. We got to do this at like whatever, right? We're doing something at fucking 11. You better be there. So start having seizures on the fucking regular, right? So you have it on,
yep.
I mean, a lot, right? I remember reading that thinking, this is fucking wild. So you, at this point, you've got both her parents, you're an E4 pay, you're paying $1,800 a month child support. So basically anything you get for a house, you guys. So your base pay in the military, and there's people that aren't military, that aren't veterans, your base pay is fucking a very small portion of what you make, right? It's taxed. Okay. You get a housing allowance, if you're able to live off base, right? If for whatever reason, if there's no housing available, or you're married, in a lot of cases, they'll allow you to live off base. They'll pay you, and it's based on local economy, right? It's based on an average of rent and blah, 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 housing and all this right here. Now, that's fucking great because he's married. He has to live off base, but he's still got to give all of his BAH to his ex-wife for child support, right? So again, military, man, that just seems to make a whole lot of fucking sense right there, right? So during that time, let's delve into that little 2-year period right there while you're waiting, while they're trying to med board you, trying to find out what's wrong. I think it goes needless to say, you're probably not going to be an effective combat paramedic, an airborne paramedic. Airborne means the guy jumps out of fucking perfectly good airplanes, right? So, everybody else is a leg. This guy's not a leg. He jumps out. He jumps. He got wings, right? So, needless to say, he's probably not. I mean, it's probably a bit of a risk for him to go jumping out of an airplane because the chance of, he could have a seizure and fucking flight, or and then hit the ground, and who knows what that impact could cause, right? So, tell me a little bit about that 2 years, Justin. What was your typical, your days or your weeks like going through all that?
Well, once they gave me, I had to go start seeing neurology, and they started running tests and giving me medication, and so they put me on like eventually, after lots of fighting and whatnot, they eventually put me on like a 9 o'clock work call, because I would literally be up till 4 or 5 a.m. having grand mal seizures. And that's where you go completely unconscious. I've shit myself during a seizure. I've pissed myself. My wife has had to and she had to stay up with me every single time to make sure I didn't choke on my vomit and die. Right. So it's no joke. Eventually, they let me have like a 9 o'clock work call, and then we get a new NCO in, and he's like, "Nah, son, we ain't having this. I don't think you're having seizures. I think you're completely full of shit, and you're coming into PT." So I'm working off like 2 hours of sleep while having seizures and coming into PT. I come in one day, and we're sitting around waiting, because that's what you do in the military. And I looked at my buddy, and I was like, "Bro, I feel one coming on, about to have a seizure." And bam, have a seizure, crack my head open on the concrete. Head starts bleeding everywhere. They end up calling the ambulance, and that's kind of when things, the CO found out, and he was like, "Okay, this is serious. We got to actually do some stuff." But I had plenty of seizures at work, where I'd have to go home in the middle of the day, and then they're like, "All right, be here tomorrow. I don't care." I can't go to the hospital because they literally can't do anything for you. I'm going to neurology, and they're telling me that nothing's showing up on scans. So I'm not having what's known as epileptic seizures, but they think it's psychological. So they send me to psychology, and I go see a shrink, and they tell me that's not a fucking thing, bud. So they're full of shit and being lazy, basically. And this went on for, God, years. I was a guinea pig, basically. Between the medication, the testing, it sucked, to put it lightly.
Yeah, they it's funny. I mean, typically, and that's military medicine is designed to get you back on the battlefield as quickly as possible, right? A lot of times they do that by prescription. Yeah. So fucking, hey man, I don't believe you're really having seizures. Show up, right? That guy's probably fucking Sergeant Major of the Army now, right?
I think last I checked, he's a Sergeant Major. So yeah.
Promoted him on that one. Like, oh shit, man, I'm gonna get you promoted, get you protected by Congress. So, man, fuck liability, right? So you go through 2 years, right? You finally, at some point, they're basically like, all right, fuck it, man. There's not a lot we can do, and we don't think you're deployable. So think we're gonna go a different direction, man. Let's. Well, hold on a minute. There's one more thing that I just remember reading. It just hit me. Y'all didn't live close to Post, right? Did she have a little bit of a commute? You couldn't fucking drive. Am I right on that?
Yeah. I skipped over that.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty big.
at the time, I had an F-150 V8 right before, I started having seizures. Anyway, so my wife has to start taking me to work, and the drive is 45 minutes. So she's having to stay up with me all night while I'm having seizures, then drive me to work, and then she's literally waiting at work all day long. So by this time, I already reclassed to a mechanic. So she's waiting outside the motor pool from 9 a.m. until either we get off work or I have a seizure and they let me go home, whichever one comes first.
Right.
And so, yeah, she was doing that every day, including when she was pregnant with our oldest son. So that 2-week marriage has actually turned into, 11 years of us being together, and we're still together to this day.
Yeah, man, hard times either like, dude, it cracks some people, or I mean, you guys got a foundation that dude, it may be shit, it may be completely uncrackable. I mean, but you still got to work at it, right? That doesn't change.
Absolutely.
So okay, so you got a good woman. She stuck with you. She commuted, hung around on a fucking army base all day while your ass is at the motor pool, waiting to either A, get relieved of duty, or B, have a fucking seizure, whichever comes first. Again, dude, this shit is wild to me. I mean, I remember this is like, what the fuck, man? So you guys stick it out. The army finally says, you know what? Fuck this, man. We're done, right? So bring me up to that.
Okay. Yeah, the reason she had to stay at work is because we literally couldn't afford the gas for her to drive back and forth every day because it's a 45-minute drive. So eventually I ended up getting out. They give me 80%, which was about half of what I was making on active duty. But before that kicks in, there was a 2-month period, I believe, maybe, yeah, about a 2 or 3 month period where I didn't get that, and I only got like $900 a month. So we had to survive off $900 a month when my child support was basically that much. I don't remember how much it was at the time.
Right.
Plus I had, rent, all these other bills, food, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to go back to court, fight child support for that to get it lowered. And then my landlord, not my landlord, let me back up a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I get out, and my buddy, my NCO that said, hey, get married. Okay, that dude got out at the same time and opened his own mechanic shop. And he's like, hey, I know you can't work. Come work with me. It'll be under the table, so you don't have to worry about anything. So I go work with him. I'm working 14-hour days, 6 days a week, and he's paying me $100 a week.
What the fuck?
I'm not kidding. As a mechanic, sweating my ass off.
Let me think this. So you're working, you're making $1.25 an hour, bro.
Yeah.
I'm laughing with you, man. I'm not laughing at you. I just fucking want. But I mean, you do what you got to do, right? I mean, you probably could have. Yep. You probably could have found a better fucking buddy. I mean, calling him buddy, that's kind of that's a loose.
Oh, it gets worse.
Go ahead. Let me go.
It gets worse. I promise.
All right, let's hear it.
So I'm working there, working my ass off. My wife's taking care of our kid, and some guy. She calls me one day because some guy came by the house and he's taking pictures of the house. And she was like, what the fuck are you doing outside my house? And he was like, oh, the owner hasn't paid taxes, so we're foreclosing on the house and we need to take pictures of it. So I call my landlord and he's like, oh yeah, I haven't been paying my taxes. You need to move. The house is getting foreclosed on. Fuck. Okay. Luckily, my buddy that I was working for happened to have a house outside post. So my rent basically doubled when I moved in with him. So making the same amount of money, which at this time is $1,800, $1,900 a month. And then plus child support, plus bills, plus food. And then now I'm paying $800 a month to him for rent. So I do that for a couple more months. And then it's like me and my wife are at Walmart or something, and I get a text and he's like, hey bro, I got some bad news. You need to move because all this rent you've been paying me, I have not been paying my mortgage and they're foreclosing on it. Yeah. So I have myself, my wife, my kid, and her two parents. And once again, we have to move. And so I ended up obviously not working for that guy anymore. And
no
so I
shit.
started going to school.
So hey, Justin, what was the straw that broke the camel's back with that fucking relationship?
I decided, well, before that, I was like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. I got to do something with my life. So I went to school for being a welder, and apparently flashing lights and seizures don't go well together.
Yeah.
So that didn't last long either.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So anyway, so that happens. So I am completely out of options. I have no money. I have nowhere to go. I had this family to look out for. So I call my grandmother, and she basically has to get a loan for us to, she goes out and gets a loan for us to rent a truck and move down to Texas, which is where I'm from. It's where all my family is. And so we pack up, this big ass 26-foot U-Haul, move to Texas, stay in apartments. We're there for like a year, and it was nothing but, family drama, and God, it was hell. And then my grandmother dies while I'm there. So I'm glad we were there, because I got to see her on her last days. She was like a bright spot in my childhood.
Yeah.
So she was always kind of like an angel to me, if you will. So then while I'm in Texas, my wife is like, hey, you need to fight for 100%. Like, you can't work. You're having seizures. There's literally, you can't do anything right now. So I go ahead and I start to fight. I ended up going from 80% to 100%, and that basically doubled my income. And with that, I got a large, chunk of change because of back pay for, how long I was not getting 100%. And so with that, we moved to Florida. Nice house, everything's going great. At this time, it's just me, my wife, our kid, and her mom. And her mom's working, and she helps us because I have seizures. So she'll help out with the kids. She works, helps out financially. Her dad's living in Florida with us, but at a different house. And then all of a sudden he gets brain cancer. So yeah, so now he's living with us with brain cancer, and we're having to, take care of him. And so that happened for like 9 months. All that, and then he passed, and then I get another phone call from my landlord saying, hey, from the new landlord in Florida, saying, hey, I'm gonna sell the house. I'm gonna give you the first option to buy it. If you don't buy it, then you need to get out. Well, that didn't really work out for me. So we had to end up, for the third time, moving out yet again because of the landlord. And eventually we bought a house, and that's where I am today.
So you've been borderline. Well, shit, not borderline. You've been homeless a couple times. You've been like, fuck, I don't know where I'm going to go a couple times. And now you're a homeowner. How's that feel, man?
Feels good. Life is finally, at 33, life is finally coming together.
Yeah, so that's that whole situation is just freaking insane. And that's like, when I was reading it, I remember like, holy shit, man, I want to hear it and I want to share it, right? So tell me what life looks like for you right now, man. I mean, aside from you got your own house, you got your wife that stuck by you through hell, right? I mean, been through some shit with you.
Literally.
Put up with a bunch of bullshit that a lot of people wouldn't, man. So you're blessed in that, right? But tell me what life looks like right now for you.
Life, I mean, I still have, depressive moments. Last month I was actually down really bad, and I've had like, I'm gonna put this gun on my mouth and pull the trigger moments. Never actually did, because I'm not a bitch. And then I started following this guy named Boyd, and he posted a video about just saying, your style of motivation and the way you talk is the the style that like gets me going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you telling me that because, like I say it all the time, like my message is not for everybody. I understand that, right? And I mean, I get it. I get messages all day. I mean, I rub some people the wrong way, and sometimes that's like, okay, I I don't, I won't change, right? I don't. I mean, I care, but I don't give a fuck, right? I mean, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because I know enough people, Justin, like you, that dude, this platitude bullshit, this nonsense doesn't fucking it doesn't do shit for me, right? It doesn't do shit for you. We've seen some fucking horrid things. I've been through some shitty fucking times that the fucking like, hey, just be positive and fucking drink water and sleep 8 hours a night, man. Fuck all that, right? Listen, man, like there's times when it's hard to be fucking positive. Sometimes we need to be fucking reminded that we've been through a lot of shit and we're still fucking in the fight. We're still here, right? So I speak in a way that I like to be spoken to, and I think that's why people like Goggins, like and Cameron Haynes and Jocko. That's why I talked about this in the last one I just did, man. We talk about I put like some fucking one of these Nimrods on Twitter posted, "You're a dork if you're a dork shit if you listen to those guys." And I'm like, "No, who the fuck are you?" Right? I mean, you're talking about Jocko, a fucking former Navy SEAL. Cameron Haynes has been through hell and is one of the toughest motherfuckers in the world. And Rogan's had his fucking demons, right? And I'm like, who the fuck? I mean, like, dude, I don't care if you like their guests, you like their messages, right? But don't discount what these fucking people have been through. And I felt like in the veteran community, I feel like we relate better to, and there's some people that don't. Some people are like, man, y'all are still fucking retards, right? I mean, not to like get canceled for using that, but that's the way, some people are like, there's plenty of us that like that had a pretty freaking, crystal clear way and didn't run into any trouble. I definitely did. Don't have any felonies or anything, but man, I made it real fucking hard on I made it a lot harder on myself. Like the way my career ended, like amazingly, right? This well decorated freaking NCO and all this shit. Like, dude, I did everything I could not to be that fucking guy early on, right? So, but I feel I appreciate you sharing that because man, that just reminds me, like, dude, motherfucker, it may have helped one guy one day, and that right there, dude, for me is fucking worth. I'll get off here today and start just raising hell again. So get me fired back up. So
I love it. No, man. So I was going through like a tough time. I wasn't working out. I just wasn't. I had no motivation for anything. I was surviving. I'm living. I'm not living life. I've just been surviving. And then I saw one of your videos, and you're basically like, quit being a bitch. Like don't be a bitch. You have people looking up to you. You have people to look out for, and you can't be a pussy right now. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're right. You're absolutely correct. And so every time, like between my upbringing and then the military, just how you talk in your videos and stuff is the type of shit that like lights a fire under my ass. And people like me, because it's like, you've been through all this shit. Why are you going to be a bitch now? Like,
yeah,
there's no point. That's stupid. It's like winning the lottery and then, choosing to be homeless.
yeah, it's crazy, man. How I mean, like I said, you've been through, dude. Just look back at what you've been through. You're fucking here, right? You're still in it, and nothing that can happen, right? I talked about this, man, with fucking COVID, right? That fucked people up, right? You didn't get to see your friends, you didn't get to go patios and drink beer and have fucking tacos, right? Like, dude, so fucking what? I mean, life can get a whole lot fucking worse, right? And if and your hardest thing, I say it all the time, your hardest thing is your hardest thing. But dude, fucking, just because right now, not you, but let's say somebody you're floating high and somebody may not be on the level you're on, don't discount what that motherfucker's been through, right? They may not be at the level or the same place in their life where you are, which is way up here. But dude, that's like getting home. That's like getting home when you started on third base. Some of these motherfuckers didn't start at they didn't start at bat or in the dugout. These motherfuckers started 100 miles down the street living in the fucking sewer, right? To get to the ball field, to get a chance to be on the team, to be on deck, to get a fucking hit. And yeah, they may only be on first base, or they may have fucking just struck out, right? But they're about to get back up again, right? So it's important to remember, like, man, just fucking always, dude, look at how far you've come, to know that you can handle it. You are capable of more than you can imagine. And dude, fucking just, dude, the world, the fucking world, your family, not just your family, not just the people that depend on you to feed them, or to shelter them, but man, the fucking world needs people right now to show, like, dude, you got this, right? So that's a big part of my message, and I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, man, it really it's kind of like it's reinvigorated me. So to you, I thank you, because I really do appreciate that. And so I watch all your videos, I share the shit out of them. It makes me laugh because you're so intense and just zero filter, zero fucks, and I completely resonate with it. So I fucking love it.
Man, so what you're telling me is, I was having those feelings after I crucified that poor guy the other day for being a bitch. Nah, son, don't let up, right? Keep going.
Son. Exactly.
Well, hey, I don't know that listen. That's what my thing is, man. Be authentic, right? So people that know me, that meet me in real life, they're like, nah, he's not fucking acting. My ex-wife sees me on Twitter, right? She follows me. We're friends, right? And she even jokes about it. I'm like somebody will say something, and she's like, oh fuck, man, you're not the one, right? Like, yeah, I know. Right. So
it's not the one you want.
I appreciate that, man. One thing I like to do in these right here, and I like, hey man, you got me on here. Is there anything in this world, anything, man, you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, what keeps you going? What gives you like that fire to just not be a pussy?
Okay. Well, dude, I mean, believe it or not, now, like, I mean, now that I get out, I put myself out there, right? I made myself visible, and I'm very transparent about it, right? So if I meet someone, they're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Man, that's hard to fucking explain," right? I rant, I carry on, right? Every once in a while, I talk to somebody, help them out, right? So now it's funny. Like the other day, I was sitting there looking at my shoes. I was like, "Man, I got to go run." I know motherfuckers, and nobody would even know if I did, right? And I know that, right? But I'm like, no, man, motherfuckers, people are like, I know, right? And there's no way I couldn't fucking do that. But a big part of it is, man, very similar to you, man. I haven't been through, most of the shit you haven't been, you've been through, dude. That's, to me, it's why I got you on here. I'm like, fuck, man, I got to share this. But I know how far I've come. I know I know when times got shitty, they came to an end, and all suffering ends. And the last ones I did, I pointed out behind on this board. You can't see it. It says either you'll suffer because of the work you do, or you'll suffer for the work you don't do. Right? I've learned this. The suffering from the shit you do not do is infinitely worse than the suffering that I go through to do the stuff I do. Right now, I mean, we talked about it. I went to the fucking VA, and they're like, "Hey, dude, you got 3 hernias and a fucking broken foot, right?" And I'm prepping for Ironman Waco and half Ironman Waco, and I'm putting on top of that. If it was just a fucking race, dude, there's a good chance I'd be like, fuck it. I don't care about trophies. I don't care about medals, right? But I decided I'm going to be the Gold Star Initiative rep, where I'm going to be doing festivities with Gold Star families. People don't know. I mean, this is the first one that you've seen. Gold Star family, someone who's lost a military member. Now, primarily we think of that as someone who lost someone in combat, and that is a big portion of it. But we also lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, right? It's something that it's hard to talk about, because I mean, like Justin, like a lot of these guys, man, I've been through a whole lot of shit. And then you throw on financial issues way after the fact, right? You lose the camaraderie, you don't have that to lean on, you lose the structure, you lose your family. You may have issues from combat, and then they make the decision, you know what, it'd be easier to just not be here. Well, that's something that's important to me, and I want every veteran to know that, dude, fuck it, man. If you know me, or you can find you get me on Twitter at Boyd Myers, fucking message me. You get my phone number, dude. I'll talk to you fucking any time of day or night, right? That's a big motivator for me. So I'm the Gold Star Initiative rep. I will be visiting with Gold Star families. I will be holding the flag during the national anthem, which, dude, I hear the national anthem. I'm the guy that chokes up, brother. I get emotional just on the national anthem. And then I'm going to go do the swim, we'll do the bike, and then I'm going to run with the flag on both days. So I'm doing the full and a half. So I'm going to run 26.2 miles carrying the American flag, and then I'm going to run 13.1 miles. At the end of both those races, I'm going to hand that flag to a member of someone that has lost a military loved one. I figure this. I should have looked it up a minute ago. I think I'm about 105 days or so out, right? I may be off on it, maybe 100. I don't know. I quit looking. I can suffer from a little bit of discomfort from a groin and hernias and a broken foot, right? It sucks. Don't get me wrong, it's miserable. And I'm not bitching about it, crying about it on Twitter. Like half these fucking guys get plantar fasciitis or shin splint, and they're like, "Oh fuck, man, let me tell you everything I've overcome." Like, dude, God Almighty, dude. I wish that was all I had. I've got plantar fasciitis too, fucking patella tendonitis and everything, but I don't have vaginitis, at least, right? So, dude, I figure this, man. I can suffer for the next 100+ days. I can suffer for 48 hours during that. Those families have been suffering for who knows how fucking long, and it's never going to fucking end, bro. And their big concern is they don't feel like most of these families, dude, they're not even comfortable talking about the fact that they lost someone because they think no one cares. No one wants to hear that. Mm-hmm. And I just want people to know, man, their sacrifice, your loss was not in vain, right? And even if that person chose to take their fucking life, right? Which, I mean, it's a shitty situation, Justin. And dude, I hear this all the time. I speak to a lot of veterans, bro. And a lot of us have been at those crossroads to where they make the decision where they're like, dude, let me go home, man. But I think this is it. I think this is the last day, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it, right? I know that. And I want people to know that have lost a loved one, whether it's combat or suicide or whatever. Dude, we got to talk about it. We gotta let those families know how much we appreciate that sacrifice. We understand your pain. You have nothing to be ashamed of by wanting to keep that memory alive. And I want to bring that. I want to bring awareness to that, right? So right now, what keeps me motivated, dude? I'm like everybody else, man. I wake up fucking feel like shit. I don't want to go out into Texas heat. I just don't have a fucking choice. I'm going to go outside. It's going to be hot, right? So I just figured, man, that I made a commitment, and I will have to fucking die in Waco, Texas. They'll have to bury me there somewhere by the Brazos River, or I have to get eaten by a fucking alligator or something. But dude, I will fucking die before I do not carry those flags across those finish lines.
That's so awesome, dude.
Yeah, man.
It's very cool. Yeah, and it's something, the suicide, it's something that's kind of like fallen out of talking points, if you will. I don't know how to put it in words, but it was like the thing to talk about not that long ago, and now it's people care more about other things, but it's still very real.
Yeah, and man, I don't know what the answer is because it's crazy, right? Because we're all trained to, like, dude, you got to be fucking strong, right? You got, and God forbid, dude, you can't say you're breaking down while you're in active duty, because now you're going to be put in the fucking nut house and you're going to be shipped the fuck out, right? Or you're looked at a weak link in your unit, right? If you end up in any kind of psych stuff, right? So mental health in the military is, man, if you have any kind of security clearance, fucking, there's none of that shit's coming up, right? You're encouraged not to fucking talk about that, right? So you carry these burdens and then you get out, right? And like you said, it's not in vogue to talk about it. I mean, dude, early on, I'm old enough. I was 25 on September 11th, bro. And I remember what it was like, right? I mean, because I'd been in the military, didn't have any prestige at that point. Before then, we're just fucking, nobody cared, right? You'd meet girls like, I don't date military guys, right? And then September 11th hit, and then after Iraq and that, dude. And there was a few years there, dude, where you couldn't go anywhere. And the worst thing that would happen to you is somebody buy you a beer. That was the worst thing, right? And then we became a nation tired of war. I mean, fuck, dude, it went on way too long. Both of them did. We know that. And forget the disaster getting people out of Afghanistan, right? And then like it lost its again. We've cycled back out of that to where it lost its its glory. And man, I remember this. I'm so proud of the fact that I was in the military. I'm so fucking proud of it. And I remember thinking, I just been out for a couple of years, and I owned a gym in San Antonio. So San Antonio's, big military town. And I'm sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'd had a shitty day, man. I mean, my taxes were fucking or something, right? It was just typical adult life shit. And there's these four guys in there, and they're 4 or 5. There's a group of them, and they're obviously Marines, right? And one of their buddies was he had completely burned up, right? His skin was flat. He had holes where his nose were. He had 2 slits where his eyes. He had 2 slits with his mouth. You could tell he hadn't been out a whole lot since then, because they were very much celebrating this guy. And I remember this kid had his unit T-shirt on, bro. And I'm thinking, dude, my day's not shitty, right? That guy right there has every fucking reason to hate the fucking military that sent him, the country. Dude has earned the right to say, you know what, fuck this, man. I got a raw deal. And he's still so fucking proud that he's sitting there having a beer with his buddies with a fucking unit shirt on, right? And I realized, dude, there's some special motherfuckers in this world that you do not know their names, that have made a promise to lay down their lives if needed, right? Without fucking question. And we celebrate mediocrity. We celebrate fucking spoiled, rotten brats in sports and fucking celebrities that have done nothing to earn, what they do. But yet we've got guys like this kid that I don't know his name, that motherfucker picks up an M16 with the idea of, motherfucker, you're not getting any closer to the United States. You're not going to fly another jet in the fucking buildings as long as I'm here, motherfucker. Right. And I think anybody that's been willing to pick up a weapon in defense of, dude, it's not defending the border. I'm saying, like, dude, you're making sure that this mother in Des Moines, Iowa has nothing to worry about. Right. And I think there still are people that choose to serve the country for that reason. It's not about fucking going in to go to school or whatever, right? Or just because they don't have a job. There's still motherfuckers that say, fuck it, man. Let me go kick a terrorist ass, right? So yeah, as long as there's those people, dude, I'll be able to find motivation, man. I'll be able to find a reason to fucking to keep doing my thing, right?
I love it, man. I love it. That's why we do what we do.
Yes,
that's
sir.
What makes the military special to us that have been in it, is because we know the evil that's out there, but we also know the badasses that are out there also.
Yeah, man. And that's I get on and I'm a little more vocal about it, and done, I'm a little older now and stuff, but man, dude, I wish to God, man, people knew some of these guys behind me, brother. Fuck, dude. Yeah. I know some fucking studs that will not tell their fucking stories, right? They just can't. You know that. You know the same people.
Yep.
Well, Justin, tell me, man, dude, I am going to do everything I can, because you inspire me. I mean, probably well more than I inspire you. So share with everybody. I mean, because you don't have a big following yet, brother, but I'm about to do everything I can to change that. Tell me how people can find you, Justin.
I don't even know what my Twitter handle is, to be honest with you.
Dude, it's funny. So no, I'm going to look it up for you, because I looked at it earlier to say it, and I was like, oh, fuck, man, I'll never remember that. It is. Yeah. So for everybody, hey, listen, first off, we're going to help Justin get a better Twitter handle. I think you can change. I think so, right? It is today, though. It's Justin, Justin S, as in Schmidt, S as in Sierra, Justin S 88675-185. That's on Twitter. Justin, I have to ask, man, what are the significance of those numbers?
That's what Twitter gave me.
Okay. Well, hey, once you update that or figure out if you can, I believe you
I'm
can.
doing that
Let
right
me know
now.
and I'll share it. We'll figure out something else.
I'll figure it out.
Well, hey man, it's been an absolute fucking pleasure, brother. You're a stud. I love your story, dude. Fucking keep on. You've already been through all the shit, man. You might as well freaking enjoy this end of it. But hey, here's the deal. If it comes back, when shittiness comes back to our doors, bro, fuck it, man. There ain't nothing. There is nothing that you're gonna run into that fucking holds a candle to the last 13, 14 years, man. So you've got this, brother.
I appreciate that, man.
All right, dude. I have enjoyed chatting with you, my man. And no, I cannot wait to get this one out. So yeah, man. I think a lot of people are gonna love this.
All right. I appreciate it, man.
All right.